Hey guys, and a big welcome back to my channel Illustrator. I am Tor, and we are going to be starting off 2019 strong with a paper review based off of papers that I have been using for the last 3 or more years. So any papers that I've been trying recently I've left out because obviously I'm still very new to them, and I'm not about to give you guys a review of something that I've not used or barely used. So this is a list of ones that I have used, tried and tested, with a whole bunch of pros and cons. So just to run you through what we're going to be going through later in the video is we've got Graphics Direct own brand marker pad, we've got a Hobbycraft own brand paper, a paper simply called, and I love this, Simply the Best. I love that they've called it that. There's also HP Color laser paper for the printer. There's also Xerox ColorTech Plus, which is also technically for the printer. There's also 2 more. So we've got Della Rowney's own, multimedia sketchbooks, and we've also got the one, the only XPressIt paper. And is it really worth the money that it says it is? So these are what we're going to be working through in just a second. You guys will have noticed by now that I am quite a Copic person. Not just Copics though, any alcohol based pen you can test this with depending on what you are using. So if you're a pro marker person, this will work for you. If you are a Spectrum Noir person, this will also work for you. The basis of all of these types of pens are that they are ink pigments mixed with an alcohol base. Okay, so they have fancy names and different barrels and different things, and some are good and some are bad. That's up to each individual person to make up their mind of what they like. I'm not about to tell anyone to like one more than the other. It's completely personal preference. Moving back to the paper, we are testing both, yes, Copics and wet media because I like to use watercolors. I use a few different types of watercolors, but again the principle is the same, so I'm using my Winsor Newton mini set just because it fits on the camera quite nicely. And again, with testing, you want to test literally everything that you're using. So the paper, the media, and the item of which you are lining with if you are a lining type of person. Some people don't line at all. However, I am. So the pens that I'm testing are the Zig Mangaka Flexible in both fine and medium, the Uni Pin in both sepia and black in the 0.5 thickness, and the Copic Purple Multiliner and again in 0.5 because these are the ones that I use the most. And I would recommend, if you are going to be doing a whole bunch of tests, you do the same. You pick the ones that you use the most and you test on both paper and your media, and you'll get a damn good reference for the future. The pros and cons for the Della Rowney 250 GSM aka £169 acid-free mixed media paper was I have no faults with the watercolour at all. It went down well, it reacted well, and it didn't buckle excessively when I used a lot of water. So that was nice. Moving on to the alcohol-based pen version of testing, I would advise avoiding the sepia multi-liner Uni Pin when you're colouring, or when actually anything. I've tested it on all the papers and it didn't react well to being mixed on top of. So if you're using it, use it as a writing implement or to line afterwards. That's my advice anyway. All the other pens were brilliant. So the Della Rowney, I will pop up on screen right now, for 30 pages costs you £8.79, which is 29 pence per page, which is quite expensive actually when you think about it. However, it is mixed media, so you do have quite a lot of play with it. Its pros were the fact that it is mixed media, it has a great blend, it's good for most pens, it's not bad at bleed through, it didn't make too much mess on my desk, which was nice. You can get it from Hobbycraft and other online stores, so it's very easily accessible, not just to the UK. You can find it all over the place. The negative was it does have some feathering when you're heavy colouring. If you're going into a lot of detail and you're trying to get a very deep, intense blend and you keep going over the top, expect feathering. You may need to fix that later, either digitally or manually. That's up to you. And it does really suck the ink in. So if you have a nearly dry pen and you're going into this, don't expect it to last very long. Get yourself a refill pretty sharpish. The second pen that we are testing on multimedia usage is Hobbycraft, which I will pop up on screen right now. It's 160 GSM. I couldn't find the exact one that I originally bought a long time ago because it's a very old paper, so I tried to find the closest to what they currently have. It was a pack of 100 for £4, which means it's very, very cheap at 0.04 pence, which means if you're on a budget, this is a pretty damn good paper. It is smooth, it does end in bright colours, it has minimum bleed, and you can get it from Hobbycraft, so it's pretty easily accessible from most places. You may need to do some research if you particularly want this one. It's not suitable for mixed media, even though when I originally bought it 3 years ago it was advertised as mixed media. It's no longer advertised for that, so they must have done their research. Good on you guys, because it's not great. And it does have some bleed through, so you will need paper behind this. Now let's move into the alcohol based pen only papers. Here we go. The first paper up for a review used with markers is Graphics Direct's own brand of marker paper in 70 GSM. Now, I bought this a long time ago, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, and I've checked their website recently and I have been unable to find the same thing. So instead I have found the closest I can possibly find to it, which I'll put up on screen right now. So for the same size, which was A3, it currently will cost you £6.10 for 50 sheets, which works out to be 12 pence per sheet. For an A3 piece of paper that's specifically made for pens, I think that's pretty darn good. So a few things you need to know about marker paper in general. Doesn't matter what the brand is, they're all incredibly similar. So depending on the GSM will depend on how much blend you're going to get. 70 GSM is not brilliant for blends. It's there as to give an idea of the colour you're trying to give to a creation. So that brings me back to the purpose of the paper. This paper was originally created for concepts, for fashion, for graphics, for objects, for any kind of concept illustration. It's made for that. And the reason why it's so good is because there is a special coating on the back of the paper that stops the blend going through and damaging the next page in the book or your desk or whatever it is that you are using. So while that is really good, if you have a tear out style pad like this, like I have, if you tear it out and then you forget which way up it's going to be, that coating then affects your ink. So instead of it giving you a little bit of bleed and play and blendability, it won't, and it will just sit on the top. So remember which way up that is integral to your illustration or your concept piece. The test piece that I'm drawing for you right now on screen is inspired from a fashion museum I visited in Copenhagen early in 2018. I was so inspired by their illustrations. They're so free and long and leggy, and I was just like, you know what, this paper is intended for that style of illustration, and that is what I'm going to do. So pros are concepts brilliant, fashion brilliant, graphics brilliant, can be cheap, brand varying, fantastic for anti-bleed, all pens work well, bar the sepia Uni Pin. I don't know why that one is so bad at this. Graphics Direct own brand is UK only, however there are tons of brands to choose from that do the exact same thing, and it's incredibly smooth. The negatives is it's not excessively good for smooth blends, so it's more for an idea only, and you must remember which way is up. That is integral. The next paper I picked up at a craft fair one time a couple of years ago, and its paper title is literally simply the best. It's silky smooth, ultra white, 250 GSM, and it's from a place called limetreecraft.com. When I originally bought this, the website didn't work, however it seems to be working now, so I will put what I can find the equivalent of up on screen right now. So you get 100 sheets for £5, which works out incredibly cheap at 0.05 pence per sheet. So let's get down to testing. So I was just letting myself doodle whatever came into my head, which is why you are getting yourself a cheeky little sausage dog with a Christmas hat, because it was Christmas when I was doing this video. So its pros are it's not bad at bleed through, it's very smooth, its inks react really well with the paper, it's not expensive at all, and feathering is minimal even with heavy bleed. Sorry, not heavy bleed, wrong thing. Even with heavy excessive use of the inks to get a good blend. The only thing that I could find against it was that the website was a little bit hard to navigate, and if you're trying to get this from further afield, not in the UK, it may be an issue. So if you are a UK based person and you're looking for a cheap equivalent to, you know, the expensive one that I'm avoiding until the very end, this one's a pretty good one. So I would suggest heading their way to get some cheap paper, because they're good. very good. Next up for testing is the HP Color Laser paper at 120 GSM. The reason why I started testing printer paper was because if I wanted to be able to amend my line art and then reprint it, I wanted that availability. So I was just testing whatever I could get my hands on, really. And this was one that had some quite good reviews, but I hadn't had the personal opportunity to actually physically test it myself. So again, on screen I'll show you where I can currently get it online at the cheapest. It's currently the cheapest for a ream of 500 sheets for £11.27, which means that it is just 2p per sheet, which is fantabulous for printer paper, let me tell you. It did get some quite good blend. There was a little bit of stepping, which wasn't amazing, but it held up for its job, which was good. Obviously it's going to be better if you can do the original line art and then correct later if you need to correct, but if you are in that position where you need to correct, just do minor corrections to your lines, then you know it's a good one to take. So its pros are it's easy to find, you can find it all over the place, you can print on it with most printers. However, there's quite a few negatives. It does feather quite badly. It can be expensive depending on where you're getting it from, and not all pens work very well on it. There is also very minor ink pickup, which that's what I call it when you've got your liner down, so like the Uni Pin, or even in this case the Copic 0.5 pen. When you colour over the top, it sort of sucks the ink inside the paper, if that makes sense, so it's no longer very vibrant on the top. And it has incredibly bad bleed through. It's so bad it's actually stained my desk right now, so I'm looking for something to clean my desk, or yeah. So Xerox Colortech Plus 160 GSM is up next. Again, I'll put up on screen right now where you can currently get it from. So this is the only negative I have against this paper is the fact that you have to buy it in reams, because it's designed for art studios, graphic studios, for businesses. It's meant for business use. So bear that in mind. On average, you can get it for about £10.75. Some places are more, some places are less. Do your shopping around. But on average, it works out to be about 4p per piece of paper. Now, if you're asking me just between the two printer type papers, the HP and the Xerox, I will always be moving forward with Xerox from here on out. It has medium feathering, which is fantastic. Then all the positives are the inks stay, it's smooth, you can print on it, it allows a good blend, and it keeps your colours bright. You just have to be aware of what colours you are using from an early on point of view, because if you start at a medium tone, you won't be able to work lighter. So you do have to work very meticulously from light to dark. That's just a heads up if that's a paper you end up going with. In my experience, again, it's only my experience, but I would choose this one moving forward for a printer, and that's just my opinion, so obviously it's up to you in the future what you do. Okay, it's the big one, the one that you guys have been waiting for. It is the time to test XPressIt Blending Card 250 GSM. So I'm gonna just go ahead and say that this is the most expensive paper that I have tried, and I'm trying to go in level-headed, because I know it costs a lot, and it's really got to wow me to make me want to buy more. So on screen right now, I'll put up where I have found this and how much it cost me. So it cost me £18.77, that's what you can currently get it for, at 75 pence per sheet because it's a pack of 25. So you don't get very much, and it is colossal in comparison to other papers that we use. However, the reviews out there on the web are fantastic, and I have used this paper before. You may have noticed my favourite thing that I've drawn with this paper is the bee house sneak peek inside type thing, which I'll link above because it probably shows this paper off in my style to the best of its ability with me testing it anyway. So its main top things are it is smooth and it is really bright. It keeps the pigmentation there. However, it has this really funny thing of where you're colouring, it leaves like this sort of dappled texture, which is nice and not at the same time. So if you're a texture person and you like that kind of thing, I quite like it. But there will be people out there that don't like the texture, so I'm just saying that to just, you know, keep your eyes open for that if you don't like it. The bad things is it's expensive because we have to import it to the UK. It's not a UK product, it's not easily accessible, and you do have to import it. Depending on how much paper you are ordering, you may need to pay customs as well. And also, this is really bad for the price. I found that if you colour excessively and you're trying to get a nice deep rich blend, it feathers really badly. So that is something you will need to keep in mind when you're using this paper, and if you choose to use this paper. It's again completely up to you, and that is just my opinion. For me personally, use in my studio from here on out after all of this testing, it's come down between 2 for specifically for Copic use, one of which is the Simply the Best Silky Smooth Ultra White 250 GSM and the Xerox Colortech Plus 160. And then the last one is the Multimedia Della Rowney, and that's just because I like the way it looks with my watercolour. There are other watercolour papers that I have been trying recently, but I am very much a novice with them and I did not feel at all qualified to be talking about them just yet. So as this currently stands, these are the papers that I have used the most and tested on camera for you guys. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to message me in the section below. I don't check the comment section daily, however when I do sit down to do them, I will endeavour to make my way through all of the comments. Thank you guys very much for watching. Please remember to give this video a nice big thumbs up, it lets me know that you liked it, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button to join the arty family. Until next time guys, love you all, bye!